And we're live. Hey guys, welcome to You'll Probably Agree. Today I have Mark the Movie Man Krawczyk on from Special Mark Productions and Martin Green on, a local Chicago filmmaker and lover of cinema and someone who helps me out on a lot of shoots. He helped me out on the C2E2 shoot when I basically broke my back using a gimbal all day. So thank you for that. The movie we're talking about today is a film I wanted to talk about for a while, and it's called The King of Kong, A Fistful of Quarters. It's a movie, it's a movie about someone trying to get the highest Donkey Kong score, but I'll choose someone from here to give a synopsis of the film. Mark, would you like to go ahead?
Um, yeah, sure. This is from, was it early 2000s?
2007.
2007
Yeah.
was a documentary that came out, and it was documenting through this particular controversial case, probably the biggest one in all of early retro video gaming. There was a individual who had competition got real fierce really quick with video games, and so it basically covers the story of one particular gentleman who prided himself on being the highest score of Donkey Kong. And he had a number of other records too, but he was most proud of his Donkey Kong one because Donkey Kong is probably the most challenging of those stand-ups to get the top score. So the gentleman's name was Billy Mitchell, and so he held the core store for many years until another gentleman, an upstart, comes along and beats his score. But the upstart, who's just his family guy who just likes to play Donkey Kong, runs into some shenanigans with the self-appointed referee and controller of the early days of video game competition. And it explores that. It uses it to explore video game culture. And it is a documentary that I highly recommend to people, even if you're not into video games, because the person making this documentary, the natural progression of events as well as the characters that they get. This is before social media. So these people aren't really, I never get the impression they're playing it up. These are real people. And I've met people similar to this who are way more into video games than they probably should humanly be.
Yeah, there's that one guy in the beginning who says, I don't do drugs, I don't drink, I play video games, which is a far worse addiction, but in a way, yeah.
Yeah, but it's the back and forth. It's about what this guy who obviously clearly has beaten Billy Mitchell, the obstacles he runs into and how that affects Billy Mitchell and his ego, and an exploration in that. So it's not only a look into the video game competition, but into people and their obsession with records and wanting to be on top. So there's kind of that underlying theme, as well as a number of other things going on. I mean, it's a compelling documentary, and you're like, if this was made any later, you'd go, oh, this is all scripted, but it isn't. It's and it's wild. I rewatched it today.
Oh man. Yeah, I actually
not only were people sort of placing a lot more importance on original stand-up video games at the time back then, but also we can't let that moment go by too quickly without also saying that guy is just weird. As you say, there are personalities back then. That dude is just straight up weird in his own like functioning way somehow, that holding his girlfriend's hand as they're walking around, like, you know, kind of backwards stalking that dude while he's playing. It was just some weird. The way his interviews were going, oh my God, that guy is out there.
But that mullet, you can't beat that mullet that he had. That perfect, like, I mean, that mullet probably was the envy of Tommy Wiseau. Tommy Wiseau was like, oh my God.
Did you see that like hair porn that scene that they had where they got him with the crack bathroom doing his thing all up? Oh yeah. The hair has its own Twitter. Not unlike my favorite, which is the hair from the newest captain of the Enterprise, Captain Pike. His hair's got its own Twitter account. He's seen Strange New Worlds.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to Billy Mitchell, I wonder how many hours he spends getting his hair just right.
Yeah.
Because like, there's no way he just wakes up and it looks like that.
Did you
Like,
see that
where people
ritual?
would go.
Of course he does.
Yeah, he's got
Yeah,
that
in the
whole
beginning,
ritual
they
down.
just show him doing the hair.
And-
He's got the mane and tail going in, baby.
and the man who challenged him is called his name is Steve Wiebe.
Yep.
And
Right.
you know, it's a contrast of people. I mean, I'm looking at this going, the documentary, the person documenting this, making this documentary was like, man, I just fell into gold. It had to be like, I couldn't ask for this. You have ego maniac guy who has his own minions spying on Steve Wiebe when he's at the arcade, the official arcade of where tournaments happen, spying on him and like putting a little pressure on him and calling him back on flip phones because it's 2003, giving him updates on the score. And Billy Mitchell's
How about this?
Uh-huh.
How about eventually the guy switches sides?
Yeah,
he's on Weeby's side after. It's great. I mean, what a story.
Steve Sanders, you mean the lawyer guy? Yeah. He was like the most fair person, or one of the more fair people in that movie, because he's like, I'm friends with Billy Mitchell, but I also really like and respect Steve Wiebe, because there's that whole moment and let's see if I can bring this up. Spoilers. All right. There's that whole moment in the film where they're talking to Steve and Billy, I think at his restaurant, and Steve, not Wiebe, but Sanders says, yeah, I think Steve Wiebe is a real competitor and he's a great family guy and, overall good person. And then they ask Billy what he thinks, and he goes, well, I don't know enough about the situation.
and then Billy gives him the stink eye for being so magnanimous and just calling balls and strikes. He's just calling balls and strikes, and dude's like, you're betraying. He was like, you Judas.
Yeah. I mean,
well,
I'm sorry. You go ahead.
Go ahead, Mark.
No, go ahead.
No,
you go ahead. Sorry.
I think he's pointing to you, Martin.
Oh, I was saying, what were you going to say, Mike? I was leaving the door open. That was what I had.
Well, the movie's kind of like how people gravitate towards popularity and power. And I think that's like sort of like what Billy Mitchell's minions did, because they knew him from, what was it, like the 1980s, where he beat the Donkey Kong score. And then they like stick around with him till like 2007, which is when they probably filmed the documentary in 2006 and it came out in 2007.
Right.
But like they follow him all the way through, although he's not this honest, trustworthy guy. I mean, the most striking moments of the movie is when Wiebe is getting his score and he actually like gets it in the arcade, and then Billy just sends over a tape and everyone just immediately thinks the tape is legitimate. Although you can see when the score goes to like 0, it glitches. And
but that's what is interesting is this is like real life playing out. These documentarians aren't setting this up, and yet they're just giving Billy Mitchell the benefit of the doubt. The referee, who's it?
Yeah, Walter Day.
Who would go on to actually, I think he's part of the electronic gaming convention that they do now, that it's in its almost 10th year, I think, here. Or it was part of it. But and he is more leery of the new guy than he is of Billy Mitchell. And I'm just like, if I met these two side by side, Steve and Billy, I'm going to tell you right now who I would have found most trustworthy just from talking to him.
Yeah.
And it wasn't Billy Mitchell.
It's Billy.
No. Billy Mitchell compares like arcade games to abortion at one point. It's like, I'm not going to trust a guy who says shit like that.
Yeah, I couldn't believe that. He compared it to abortion. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah. I mean, the guy thinks he's Jesus, and you can kind of tell like through his parents, they instilled that on him. Like when they're interviewing him, like the father's just laying down on a chair and he looks like some sort of bookie. And he's just like has this piece of paper in his hand. And he's like, Billy's a winner. Yeah. So it's like I think his whole family kind of like implemented that you're either a winner or a loser mentality. And to stay a winner, he, does a Bill Belichick and cheats. So Yeah.
Well, that's
Well,
what was.
they're obviously part of the machine. I mean, his parents are working in his hot sauce business, so they'll say whatever they want to,
Oh my
Yeah.
to the cow, right? They're
I love that moment in the documentary because there's this moment where they talk about how, and it's legit. The arcade, I forgot the name of the arcade
Fun
offhand.
spot.
Fun Spot.
Yeah.
It's
New
legit
Hampshire. Yeah.
that Fun Spot had become this hub, this very important, very prestigious in the world of video games area, to where if you set world records, that was where you would go. They keep track of it and everything. And Guinness Book of World Records got so popular that they wanted this spot, the Fun Spot, to be the official place for the Guinness Book of World Records.
Yeah.
And so you have the controversy because Steve sent in his tape.
Yeah.
And Billy Mitchell didn't believe it. So he sent two thugs over basically to investigate the game. But later on, when it comes down to doing the Guinness Book of World Records, Steve shows up again at Fun Spot's plane going, when's Billy going to be here? When's Billy going to be here? Third day they're there. I love it. Billy's minion is with a group of Billy's people. And he talks to Billy going, yeah, I let Billy know that Steve Wiebe and someone else was here, uninvited. I'm like, it's a public restaurant. What do you mean uninvited?
Yeah. And not to mention, I think the most crucial scene is like I would say the best moment, where this is proof why you should always have your cameras rolling during a documentary. Steve's trying to get the score. Billy walks into the restaurant, or not the restaurant, the arcade.
the arcade.
Yeah. And he hovers right behind Steve. Steve's like, oh, hey, Billy. And then he just walks away holding his wife's hand. He says, there's some people I don't want you to spend too much time with.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, yeah, you couldn't ask for a better moment for that to happen. It's almost like you said, it's almost like it's staged. I know, like, after the documentary came out, Billy Mitchell was saying he didn't like the depiction of him that they gave and all that. But
because everybody found out that he's creepy and weird. I mean, like, it was inevitable.
Yeah.
They literally recorded him on film. They're going to know he's creepy and weird.
Yeah.
He literally had an elderly woman who he's helping win the world record of Qbert, had her be his runner of the videotape that had him getting the 1,000,000 points. Like, he couldn't even show up. He had to send this
the rest in peace at the end of the doc. Right. The rest in peace at the end of the doc was a real nice little close of that story, wasn't it?
It was.
She died. Yeah. She died turning in I like to think she died turning in the tape. She croaked right when she handed it in.
Well, they said in the epilogue that she did travel, still trying to defend her Qbert record, but until she passed.
I was wondering how much of that's embellished, but yeah, they did have that in there. That's really nice. I guess did he take grandma under his wing? I mean, what is that what we're assuming there?
It's what you kind of assume, because it's like the one human moment with Billy Mitchell is he talks about how he brings over the Qbert machine to this elderly woman who wants to, get the record. But at the same time, he's like telling her, okay, you're gonna have to give up your vices for that. I'm like, what I'm like, he's trying to coach her, and I'm like sitting here going, dude. And the thing is, and I think that's what it is about this documentary from start to finish feels so genuine. These people are so genuine. If any of us have been in an arcade, we've met people like Billy Mitchell. We've met people like his minions. It's not out of the realm that these are real people,
Yeah, and the thing is, Billy, even when he's being nice, he's kind of acting like a jerk, And there's, I don't think, like, there is, like, the only times where I was like, is this staged or not, or how do they know, like, what they're, because Billy Mitchell's all the way in Hollywood, Florida, and he's talking to Brian Koo on the phone in New Hampshire, and this is happening at the same time as he's delivering the tape. How did they know to, like, send two crews out to each location on that day? I'm guessing they did that, but I was kind of like, that was a stroke of luck, and also it makes it feel a little scripted, but it's probably not.
I don't think so. I think they may have just coordinated, You know, they may have had two groups. They had one
Yeah.
group covering Billy
Yeah.
Mitchell in Hollywood, and they had the other one following Steve.
Right.
And so when they saw Billy Mitchell's, because Billy didn't live that far away from the arcade at the time,
Mhm.
you know, they said where they were playing at the one time, Billy Mitchell wasn't that far away. I mean, his restaurant.
Unironically, I grew up down there.
Really?
Cool. Oh, really?
In Hollywood,
Yeah,
Florida?
Hollywood, Florida. It's part of Fort Lauderdale, Florida. I was a teenager. All my teenage years were spent.
Yeah.
So, you know,
playing hooky and getting arrested was back.
So it's not out of the realm of possibility. They had one crew following Billy and one crew following Steve. And so, you know, if they had their flip phones, if I'm the documentary, I'm like, Steve's, Billy's minion's about to call him. And so then they just cut the, whatever they're doing with Billy, they're just, catch the phone call on the other end.
Yeah. And the editing.
Speaking of documentaries and such that we are on this topic, boy, they really were very candid. Like nobody felt like they weren't being, even though you can say what version of Billy he puts out into the world, whether that's his authentic self and he's just weird or he's just laying on some weird personality. I think everybody was not filtered for to make television polished. Everybody was super real. That's quite something, I think, even for mid 2000s. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, this movie does a great job of establishing characters like that are real people.
Yeah,
you got Brian Koo, who is one of Billy's lackeys, and I wonder. He said he retired at the age of 30. Like, what the hell did he do to retire at that age? Did he commit financial fraud? Did he pull a Wolf of Wall Street? Because they say he's a banker, but I don't know what he's a banker for. Yeah, you got Roy Schultz, who's the guy that sent in the Donkey Kong machine to Steve Wiebe's house. But, they found out that Roy Schultz has like a personal vendetta against Billy Mitchell and basically everyone else. And
what did you guys think about that sort of subplot in the whole documentary, like that whole backstory part?
With Roy Mitchell? I'm sorry.
Oh, I thought it was interesting that they worked it into the controversy with Steve, because Steve got a board from was it the guy who had it out for Billy, and that's what caused them to go investigate his machine. And so what's funny is
they got it from the drill sergeant. What's his name? The drill sergeant?
Yeah. So he got it from the guy who didn't like Billy Mitchell at all.
Right.
And no, that was the other guy. That wasn't Mr. Austin. It was another guy. There's like so many people in this.
It's the dude who wore the drill sergeant outfit, who probably is a masher and takes advantage of ladies awkwardly.
Oh God, yeah. You mean the guy, the guy who
gave
wrote,
the board, the guy that gave the board,
the guy who gave the board, who also did the guide to girls.
That's what I mean.
But so he gives the board
for his 10 minutes of fame. That guy was weird too.
What I love is how the video game guys acted like they knew what they were talking about when it comes to a board. I work in IT during my days, my day job. And I can tell you right now, them saying, oh, well, if they would have put the right putty in just the extra spot, or, this is kind of a reworked board. This isn't. And I'm like, you guys have no freaking clue what you're talking about. There is nothing about the board that would have gave Steve an advantage for the score that he got,
Yeah.
You can't pull out a little capacitor and put another one in there with some kind
and
of
it's going to make it better
programming and make it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
it's a software hack, not a hardware hack. In other words, I think,
Yeah, it's funny because Billy Mitchell, like I was reading this in my notes, or I took it in my research. It was, okay, yeah, I think it was like 2017 or 2018. Billy Mitchell got caught using an emulator of Donkey Kong to get a score. So they took the score away from his record, and I think Steve has the top score now.
Steve still has it. Yeah, I think he still has it now. Yeah.
I love that was the end of the movie, that Wiebe was able to, triumph after all.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. You get that little motion graphic where you show him, competing beyond Billy's score, and they're playing Ride of the Valkyries when it's going there, and it's kind of like it's a great moment. It's a crowd pleasing moment because the way the documentary ends, it's like Billy gets away with cheating while Steve, trying to do live competition, doesn't make the score, but he's got his family and his kids and he's happy with them. And then they say, but this happens, and that's when they insert it, right when you think the documentary is going to end.
Right.
Well, the big hook for that is that Steve proved his talent enough to the arcade guys who are their own controlling, the controlling entity of the scoring and such.
Right.
He proved that he's legitimate enough so where they can any videotape we get will count, you're going to be legit. You'll be considered legit. Whereas before they weren't considering, they were taking Billy's word over him because they hadn't met someone who could actually play like Billy. So it was like one of those little, you tell him, Steve, Dave, it was like one of those moments to where it's like they believed Billy just because they've seen his talent and they didn't see Steve. So they're like, oh yeah, but Steve proved himself. And I like that bit of it too, to where it's like, oh yeah, no, you can videotape from now on and we'll accept it. We won't have Billy send plugs over to dismantle your freaking machine, which I would have been pissed about.
Yeah, a bunch of strangers come in my house. Like, I'd be like, get out.
Strangers come to the house and they take apart this machine, which we're talking early 2000s. So it's, even today, still a functional stand-up is not cheap.
Especially
would you dare let anybody
genuine
to crack into your? Yeah,
no, not without me there.
Cracking your machine. No, it's crazy.
It's especially.
What were you gonna say, Mike?
Oh no, I was gonna say it's especially expensive back then and today when he doesn't have like an emulated version of Donkey Kong. It's like an actual CRT super heavy arcade set that the price for it, I'm gonna guess, runs 500 to 1,000 or something like that.
Oh yeah, no, at least they go if it's functional and it's working like his, and his was in really good condition too. I'm gonna say that's gonna almost be up to $1,200 or $1,500 if you look at it, because the parts have become more and more harder to find, original parts and boards and that, because most people have been replacing them with like pies and stuff now. So if it's got the original parts and stuff in it, it's got some value. So
over the years, I'm pretty sure I've seen some that go from like $44 and $54 and $100 and up for some of these original machines. So for sure, and plus, as you say, it's not like having a digital emulator. This is it's like cathode ray tubes. It's like the old school way. There's nothing quite like it. Did you guys play Donkey Kong when you guys were young?
I was no good at it, but I played it.
I still play. I was able to get pretty far to it when I was regularly playing in the arcades. I'd get to the mud pie level 2 or 3 times, and then end up I couldn't after that. But I got pretty good at Donkey Kong. I really liked it.
I didn't do great in the arcade, which I loved. Yeah, I liked it a lot. I was able to get not quite as far as you in the arcade, but in the home game, which had the similar levels and stuff, I really did like that. Like they said in the film, I really do like the elevators. It's one of my favorite parts, like figuring out that part of the puzzle. But I realized something about this documentary. One of those things was that it was cool how they set it up, kind of like a game, 1 player, 2 player, which I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah.
But also one of the other things that I really liked was that this is a game that I played as a kid. And I remember my love of it. It wasn't like Asteroids. This was a lot different. And then this also got me thinking about, I'd love to hear what you guys think, about the way that games back in our day, when we were kids playing these games, they were just 2-dimensional games on a flat screen. Now things have changed so much, and much of it for the better, but it's not quite the same. It's a different skill set than it is with these other games. It's just different. There's a lot more to pay attention to these days. You can say it's a real brain workout. But what would you guys say about the 2-dimensional nature of the games that we grew up on?
Well, I mean, they kind of said it early on in the film, which are these older games are more challenging than recent games because it challenges your hand-eye coordination, your memorization of the level.
Right.
You got to memorize it perfectly. Like
pattern recognition,
pattern recognition. They don't have that anymore in games as much. I mean, sure, there are some that still have it, but they're few and far between. And with those old games, I mean, they were designed for you to play them again and again and again and just keep feeding the coins into the machine because, if you easily got past the game, no more money for the that they make for the game. Yeah. So yeah, I kind of miss those games. This movie kind of made me nostalgic for the arcade because
What's your favorite? All right, quick. What's your favorite game before you answer that? What's your favorite arcade game?
X-Men.
Oh wow. Okay, Mark. What's your favorite arcade game, Mark?
Favorite stand-up arcade would be Tron.
love Tron.
I didn't even know they had a Tron game.
Oh, are you kidding? Oh man,
Are you like on the
Tron,
motorcycle and avoiding
the original
light cycles? Yeah, it's so hard.
the original Tron game, that was a challenge, but it was cool.
Yeah.
The box was cool because they lit it up with blue LEDs, and the controller was this blue, like clear blue plastic, so it lit up underneath it. It lights up underneath it with a little like control panel on it. It's just a sticker, but you get 4 different boards. You either fight like the spiders, or you fight tanks, or you do the light cycles, or you do the OC. You're in the MCP where you're shooting bricks and you have to get up to the top before the bricks come and squash you. It's
I love that one. By the way, when it first came out in my neighborhood, it had a joystick that looked like it came out of an airplane. Blue, just like you said. But it looked like it was came from a jet pilot's cockpit. You know what I mean? It was something. And I don't know about you, Mark. I'd love to hear if you played it too. I like a pinball machine called Earthshaker. I'd love to tell you guys about in a second. But with this Tron, I could never get. I'd love to hear you guys. I could never get past level 2. Like I could get the first 4. I can get the next 3 almost every time. But one of the 4, like I could almost never get past round 2 of the second 4-pack. And I never got any further than that after that. How about you guys?
I got past it a couple of times, but not too far after that, because it got really hard for Tron. I got past the first 4 and I got through the next 4, but on that third set, I just got my butt kicked because when you get to the light cycles, which was awesome, that was so hard. So fast, so hard to play.
That's the thing that I always wreck on. I can get every other one pretty easy, but if I don't know that pattern. And that's the thing I hate about Tron. That joystick, I always used to ram it because it felt like it wasn't listening to me on the light cycles. Like, that's when I really got mad. I couldn't stop playing Tron because I was like, damn you, light cycles!
What was great is in one of the interviews, when they're doing the interviews with these people, seeing the other arcades in the background, they're doing one, and you just can see the corner of it of a video game called Tapper. And Tapper would not be around today, but when it came out, and there were 2 different versions. There was the regular Tapper, which they came out, which did root beer, but initially it was put out by Budweiser. It was Budweiser branded, and you were serving beer. And they got a little Tapper machine, and it was great because your controller, what you did was you had bars. You had bars and you had kegs at the end of each bar, and you'd have people come up wanting to drink. And so you would have to fill the mugs and throw them down the bar and then collect the tips if you wanted. But if you threw too many glasses and it broke on the end, you would lose a guy. So you had to be careful on what you served. And of course they came out faster. And then every third board, there was which can of beer was shook. So it was not shook. So he would shake up 7 of the 8 cans, and then you had to pay attention to that one can that didn't get shook. And it played the Budweiser theme and all of that, So seeing those machines there again, and retro arcades are back now. There's our retro arcade bars and grills all over now, and it's really cool to see. But seeing them original, like not modified stand-up arcades in this documentary just took me back. I'm like, oh man.
Yeah, it's a huge nostalgia trip. And I think the thing that really works in this movie is the structure, because for like the first 9 minutes, you're kind of learning about Billy Mitchell, and he kind of comes off like a douchebag. And then you cut to Steve Wiebe, and he's just like this guy. I think he was in Washington. I don't know.
Yeah.
And he's just this normal family man where in life, he's just had a lot of hard breaks. He wanted to become a pitcher. That didn't work out. He wanted to be a technician at Boeing. That didn't work out. So then
musician.
He wanted to be a musician. That didn't work out. So, eventually he becomes a teacher, and that's how he makes his money for his kids and his family and all that. But you're rooting for this guy because he's like this soft-spoken, really nice guy. And if you listen to the audio commentary, they basically said like they didn't know if like if they wanted to film Steve for too long, you know, before they ran into Billy, because he was just kind of like really bland and kind of boring. But in the end, that was exactly the trait that made him so likable, because he's just this quiet guy who, you know, whose life, you know, didn't quite work out the way he thought it should. And getting that Donkey Kong score isn't just about getting a Donkey Kong score. It's about actually being good at something that you can feel proud of. Yeah. And the movie, I
was gonna say, I might agree to disagree with the filmmakers if that was their point, that they thought he was boring. I thought he was earnest, and in the absence of Billy being an oddball and not, you know, maybe a bit of a nefarious character, I just found Wiebe to be just a down-home guy who just wore it on his sleeve. You know what I mean? So I can see how they might think that that's boring television, but for sure that Billy guy, like, what, you're right, great. There couldn't have been two. Like I said, like a video game, 1 player versus 2 player. Couldn't have been a better contrast. I totally agree.
Yeah, because there's someone the audience can root for and root against, and those lines are very clearly drawn within like 10 minutes of the film.
Right.
Well, what I like really is, this is one of my the type of documentary approaches I really enjoy, in that it's just the interviews, it's just the footage. It's not necessarily the creator, the filmmaker, doing extra voiceover to help set up the scenes. They're actually editing. You know, I mean, it was just like the other documentary, Jesus Camp.
Oh my God, I remember that one.
That one too is one of those two where you get text from the filmmaker in the beginning, and a little bit, you know, you get it later, but otherwise it's just footage that they shot and the interviews they shot. And that's what you get here. And I like that because it tells the story and it gives it a more you know, less kind of skewed feel and more like the window into a day in the life sort of thing approach. And it just adds so much, because you're like, yeah, they're asking the questions and that, but they cut all that part out, so you're only hearing the people's answers and what they're talking about. And I think, I like that part. I love the parts, and for me it's the minion. Like, I just chuckled at the Billy Mitchell minion who was calling him and giving him the rundown of the scores.
Brian.
Oh my God, you're not gonna believe this. He just walked in uninvited. That's a 1026, 1026. He's uninvited with a friend
at a public place. Oh no! What?
Not to mention, the movie has the characters sort of, or you know, I'm gonna just call them characters as the subjects, but they have them sort of tell the story for you, instead of having to, you know, insert narration like it's.
You know, I think that's
like
good asking. Wouldn't you guys agree? When they ask good questions, I learned something from this documentary that I really enjoyed about capturing people and let's say interviewing them, whether it's earnest and real like this ostensibly, or if it's for something that's fictional. That, not just like you said, Mark, not actually hearing the interviewer's questions, just hearing the responses, but feeling very clear that there's a camera there and a human being is holding it. There's some kind of camera. I really appreciated the not having the bothersome interview. Like, even when they're pausing and waiting, you could hear that there could be a voice talking. I love that we couldn't hear it. I really love the energy of the person in the whole frame of the whole time, rather than a, you know, in a 2-shot, 2 people are talking or trading energy. Just the one person, they got those long, nice stretches. Where just those, and as you say, Mike, I think the editing also really does do a good job with that. But asking the right questions, like you say, Mike, they got them to tell the story so well. I just wondered how they figured out how to edit the things in this order. Like, I wonder what happened that they made them. This was the way to order it.
I listened to the audio commentary, and they had about like 300 to 400 hours of footage.
Wow.
That they had to go through. It's actually kind of standard for a documentary if you make a feature length one. But
you just keep shooting.
like, because they took all that 400 hours and crammed it into an hour 19-minute film. And like it when you watch like the extra interviews on the DVD, which I have right here, this movie was so good I had to get the DVD.
Wow.
But I could show the back too.
Yeah.
It's there's a lot of like extra interviews that stretch out, but the way they do it is they just focus on the main point in the movie and not what's going on in the other subject's life, because there's like deleted scenes with other arcade players who are just talking about their high scores and what they're going to do. And, you know, it's like, yeah, but we got to focus the story on Steve and Billy, because this is the David versus Goliath tale that director Seth Green is working on. And it's a movie that makes you want to see the bad guy lose and the good guy win.
You do. Yeah. Especially, I know I keep coming back to it, but the story just takes a turn, and I'm just imagining the filmmaker shooting this going, oh, I couldn't have directed this better. When you get the minion and he starts, he puts the chair next to Steve and he's asking him some questions, and then he like puts something on top of the video game while Steve's trying to play with the like just trying to, and I'm watching this going, this isn't set up, and the filmmaker just had to be going, oh, this shit's gold, right?
You couldn't have asked for a better group of characters to hate. Well, not hate, but like it really just says something about people who, because Billy Mitchell is a liar, but they kind of acted like they didn't care if he was a liar. And that says a lot about society.
There was some weird hero worship going on for sure. I totally agree. Hey, I had a couple of great favorite quotes. Here's one. Let me know what you guys think. It's from that referee, like folk singer guy.
Yeah,
who's like, he goes, out of the entire global classic gaming hobby, there's one significant rivalry that's equivalent to all the big rivalries in history. Yankees, Red Sox, Maris Mantle, Heckle and Jekyll. All the big rivalries in history.
Yeah, they act like competitive gaming. They act like competitive gaming is like a real sport, you know? And here's the thing, in some ways it's a real sport, but then wouldn't poker be a sport? You know,
but no, I'm just saying Heckle and Jekyll was in his list.
Not knowing that Heckle and Jekyll were buddies. They weren't rivals. That's
my favorite line in the movie, because he said it.
Yeah.
You know,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
It also gives you a window into extreme fandom. You know, and I'm not saying it's bad or good. It's not giving a negative, but it is one of those to where, you know, things that people get really into, they take so seriously to where it's almost comical. And you feel bad because these are genuine people. This really means a lot to them. But from the outside perspective, you're watching them going, you're hearing them talk about some of these video game stuff, and you're just like, dude, let it go. You know, but you're not invested. That's not you. You've got to try to understand. And I think this documentary does do a good job of that as well, of presenting these folks going, you understand where they're coming from. While you might think it's a little bit humorous, you might think these characters are characters of sorts, but to them, this is a genuine, serious thing, like bowling, like some other sports. And, you know, it shows you how it can be taken like that. I mean, look at it now. We have esports, we have esport competitions, we have, you know,
and so I mean,
and commentary, you know, it's like, I mean, this is still a thing. And I think that's what kind of helps as well with the growth of video game culture to such a standpoint to where it's in the zeitgeist and it's here to stay in our culture probably for forever. This documentary is still relevant because you can still relate to it, because even though the game may be dated, the motivations and the people and how they're talking about the game are still talked the same way today. You know, watching this documentary, I'm like, shit, this is like every other video game Facebook group out there.
And it's a movie that really isn't about Donkey Kong, which is the main thing. All these guys are trying to get a score because it means something to them. And to them, this is like a real competition. It's like a real sport. And like you guys are saying, they have like those are the esports, the ones where you have competitive gamers playing in an arena and it's just them on their computers and then they determine a winner. Like they still do that stuff, but with newer games. Although, you know, and it's really a movie about how we try to find a meaning in our life that goes beyond the game. And Steve Wiebe says it himself in the documentary. He says it's really not about Donkey Kong anymore.
Yeah.
You know, it's about,
Yeah.
you know, just
Well,
not being screwed over by a bunch of people who
I ju-
don't give him a shot.
I'll tell you, one of the things I love about watching this documentary, and I know I'd seen it years ago, most all of it. This was a full run through I did just 2 days ago. But one of the things I loved about after having watched this was that I immediately got an idea to film my own prequel of this one, and it's Billy back in time making like a late 70s deal with the devil. That's where all the long hair came from, and his whole rise through this movie. It's all behind the scenes footage, the opposite side of the scenes that they cut. Just go use their footage and totally make this Johnny Blaze story. Yeah. Like
Billy he's making a deal at the Crossroads Arcade. There you go. There you
Yeah.
go.
For hot sauce.
Yeah.
He's the hot sauce king.
I
He's gonna get there by being the king of like all these arcade games. Like sign right here with a little bit of blood, Sonny.
Yeah. I mean, Billy Mitchell is a narcissist, and it reminds me of other narcissists who do things that hurt people's lives. And it's funny. It's like, I don't want to draw the analogy, but there's a political analogy I was going to draw, which I'm not going to go there.
We're not going to go there. But no, what's interesting with this story is just, you know, how naturally it plays out and how you have Steve, who's just a guy, as we mentioned, but he's a guy who likes to play video games. And he, you know, throughout the whole thing, he's trying to just do friendly competition with Billy. You know, it's one of those where you get the idea to where if he played Billy and he lost, he would be fine with it because, you know, it was a friendly competition. It's like, okay, you know, best 2 out of 3 or whatever. And if he would have lost to Billy Mitchell in person, I think Steve would be okay with it. It was just that Billy was so adverse to even trying to give this guy the time of day to try to challenge to prove himself, that it just naturally gives you this. So wait, are you afraid of you not?
Especially because he's the live guy, right? Billy was always the live guy.
He's the live guy. And, you know, it's like one of those things to where you just get this natural thing of a guy who is just sus. And all Steve wanted to do was play him in a legit live game in front of everyone. That's all Steve's motivation was.
You know, Mike's great point, right? We've got two such well contrasting, you know, people to root for. It's another beautiful thing. I think this is to the same point of like one who is good and true and earnest, and the other guy who's just some like weird dude in a corner somewhere. 2006, and there's a grown man walking around with his girlfriend, I don't know what she
wife.
Is, holding her hand, like, leading his wife around an arcade as a grown man. He's leading her around, ignoring the guy that he's actually there to see. Walking around, creepy stalking, all like what is that? 2006, and it looks like it's 1973. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What is going on?
They really lucked out, these guys, because when they first came in, they were just making a story. Like, I was listening to commentary. They were just going to make a story about people trying to get high scores. And then they met Billy and Steve. And that's when they went, oh, wow, we got something real special here. Because it's not just about nerds getting scores. It's about, like, well, first off, like, Steve isn't like a nerd. You know, he's a guy with a family. You know, he used to play sports. While Billy, he's kind of a nerd, but he's also like a really successful hot sauce guy. And but the thing is, Steve is not a nerd, and everyone's rooting for Steve. Where all the nerds kind of come off like jerks in the film. You know, I mean, like Brian Koo, especially, he was bad. There was that one guy who always wore like the Doom t-shirts.
Oh, yeah.
And he was like the scorekeeper. And he was saying like, oh, I think there's something not legitimate on Steve's board.
Right.
Just going along with the Twin Galaxies and everything else.
Right.
Like Walter Day was like the one person who was fair to Steve. Not in the beginning. He wasn't fair at all in the beginning. He let that tape go through and he said, oh, yeah, it's a legitimate score. But in the end, he sent him a letter saying, we mistreated you and we think you're a real competitor. If you ever want to come here again and get this high score. We're always
That was
welcome
sweet.
and happy to
That
help
was
you.
sweet.
That was cool that he sent that. And you know, that's the thing, is it shows you how some of those small pockets of you know, gamers or whatever fandom can be very cliquey. And it's very hard sometimes for folks in that group to accept a new person or accept something other than what they've already have belief in, which there's another political analogy in there. I'm not going to make this, but
Hey,
people who have dedicated themselves.
How about that? Oh, sorry. Go ahead. What are you going to say, Mark?
No, I was just going to say, people that have dedicated themselves so much to, in this case, they've dedicated themselves to the belief that Billy Mitchell is the best. That anybody coming along, even if they're legit, going, well, no, that's not the case. Even though they're seeing it right there, the dude literally gets a kill screen for Donkey Kong. And, you know, Billy Mitchell, I loved how they cut that with that. And Billy Mitchell going, you know, now that I think of it, I don't think anybody but me has ever hit a kill screen.
It's like it just happened, dude. What are you talking about?
Got news for you, Billy.
So much like that. There's so many moments like that in the movie. I was going to say, speaking of guys, I liked the guy that first appeared at 6 minutes 43 seconds, who looked like they were interviewing him in prison. The guy's missing a couple teeth. It's really echoey in there, and he's those beady eyes, and he's like, you know, everything about him is perfect. You know, Billy's just that person. You know, he wants to represent. And I'm like, that sort of started building all the sycophants around him that we've been talking about and that you first mentioned, Mark. Like, there's this whole weird clutch of people. I don't know. That's what started getting me think of Deal with the Devil. You know, I can imagine that backstory with him at the crossroads signing the paper and becoming the gaming hot sauce king.
Yeah. It was funny when they were like, Billy delivered his tape and there was all these guys sitting in this little house eating Domino's pizza together.
Yeah, they got pizza and everything to watch. You know?
And they're watching the tape, and the best is like they're talking to Brian.
Right? Yeah.
Buffalo?
No, they were in a bungalow.
Bungalow. Okay.
Bungalow. So I don't know what.
Yeah.
Keep going.
But like Brian's talking on the phone, and then they're like, and Billy goes, "Can you give the phone to it was to someone? Oh yeah, to
Walter.
Todd."
Yeah, Todd,
and then they're like, "Oh, Todd's in the middle of a game." It just cuts to this guy wearing a wife beater with like this greasy hair. He just looks like he smells like shit. You know, he's like, he's in the middle of the game, he's getting his high score. But that's the thing, they have all these hilarious moments that you could probably write, but you can't write as well as this. You know,
there's a couple more that even you just the riff right off of that, where it's like, "Hey, is Billy coming? Oh no, sorry, you know, he's just so busy." Wrote it like 3 or 4 times. Billy was gonna show up, and they never made it because he's just so busy running his hot sauce empire.
Yeah,
you know, he can't seem to make 10 minutes to come over
and that's one of the. And that's one of the underlying threads of this story too, is the fact of watching the hero worship of Billy get cracks in it and start to fade as Steve is just there playing. Because you watch, like you said, after Steve starts showing up more on the scene, Billy is more scarce, and they're like, well, what the hell? Why is not Billy showing up? Why isn't he not around anymore? Right. You know, he seems to be giving him the shrug off. And even when they get the videotape that, you know, he had his elderly runner give you know, they're looking at it, and you hear him talk about, well, this is obviously a copy. He didn't send us the master. Yeah, that's probably why it's kind of warped in that one section. And then you even see, was it Walter Day? He's on
Walter's
the phone.
Like, oh, okay, it's legitimate.
They say it's legitimate, but then he's on the phone after declaring it legitimate, going, that was a copy, wasn't it? 'Cause, I mean, you do have the wave there, you know. So you see Walter just having this inkling of, was that really legit or not? Yeah.
Watch the score roll over. I tried to flip to pause it to watch to see if the score rolled over weird. I couldn't catch that it did. I just saw I did see the wave go in.
It did. They do a close up, just one brief close up where it did roll over supposedly, but just it doesn't roll over till after the wavy in the tape. But it's just funny hearing Walter, and you can hear you can hear the suspicion starting to build in his conversation afterwards.
mhm.
Even though he declared it official, he's telling you, yeah, you know that tape you sent. Yeah, I declared it official and all, but you know,
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. Like after the movie, like so much has changed. Where Billy, you know, they took him off the Twin Galaxies board, I think,
all his
because
scores, all of not just the King Kong, just finding the one King Kong cheat. They pulled him
Oh, I
there,
thought they
and
just fell, right?
they took
them
all of his
away, or they
scores.
just fell.
No, according to Wikipedia, they took
Oh.
all away all of his scores, and the Guinness Book of World Records removed his scores as well.
Yeah.
Oh.
Because the investigation committee, according to Wiki now, obtained the King of Kong DVD special features as instrumental in helping determine, yeah, Billy was cheating. So the
Did they say how
supplemental
he did it?
material. Well, yeah, he got caught with the King Kong emulator in 2018.
2017.
Yeah,
Okay.
2017.
17 or 18, yeah, I suppose, yeah.
So the validity got questioned when they discovered that, and by him just using that for his supposed score, the emulator, that they wiped all his scores because they couldn't trust any of it because of that illegitimate score that he tried to submit. So they pretty much wiped his scores from the board.
Yeah. I mean, that kind of speaks to the film where the movie's kind of about people trying to practice human decency, you know, because there's no decency in Billy Mitchell. He wants to win no matter what, no matter like how much he cheats. And he sort of gets his karma after the film, you know, especially
this is why I thought it was a perfect Johnny Blaze, like meeting the devil in the cross situation, because at the end he loses it all.
Like
that blood sting finally gets. You got to pay the piper, buddy.
Yeah. It took 10 years after filming the documentary, but they got him.
Oh,
well, but still, I mean, it's, you know, and that had to be feels good for Steve, because that couldn't have felt good to honestly, earnestly submit your tape and then have your whole, you know, your whole morality, your whole character called into question just because Billy said, no, that can't be real.
Yeah.
Just because one
and then
guy
Billy sends in its tape. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Then Billy sends it. Though I'm gonna say right now, if you look at the Minecraft movie and you look at Jason Momoa's character, he totally is basing that off of Billy Mitchell.
That's kind of why I invited you here, because you made that analogy on Ian's show, and I'm like, oh man, this dude knows King of Kong.
You just look at the way how he talks about his video game career and everything, how Momoa's character talks about it, and you're going, he got inspiration from Billy Mitchell. He's not quite the narcissist that Billy Mitchell is.
He's like a nice Billy Mitchell in the movie.
A nice, but he's still got that spirit, that attitude. And I swear that I'm like, Jason had to have seen this documentary.
Oh my god, yeah,
that'd be great. Can't wait to hear that behind the screens.
They were supposed to make actually a movie on this, and this is years and years and years ago. This is early 2000s, but it never happened. I don't know if they ever were to make a movie. Who do you think we should cast as like one person?
Tommy Wiseau will be Billy Mitchell. So we got that. Yeah. I did not cheat. I did not cheat at all. I did not use an emulator. Oh, hi, Mark. No,
It would make a good movie, but it's not. It would never be as good as the documentary, because the beauty with the documentary is you're filming real people doing real things. So you can't just watch the movie and say, oh, that never happened. It's like, no, this is a documentary. This happened. Now, was there any manipulative cutting going on in the film? I don't think so, because Steve Sanders was like friends with Billy and Steve, and they went to like screenings together to do Q&As. And if Steve thought that documentary was fair, then it probably was an accurate depiction of Billy, but Billy didn't like looking like a jerk. So he tried to delegitimize the documentary. And I mean, it just kind of shows what happens when you're an asshole to everyone. Because some people get it, some people don't get theirs. I mean, Billy Mitchell lost at the end of the movie when they were going to roll the credits, and then they took away all of his scores now, and it just makes you it kind of gives you hope in a way, you know, when you watch this film. It's like the guy who I'm rooting for, oh no, he's going to lose. Oh, he wins. Maybe there is some justice within this gaming society that recognize Steve as a good person and an amazing player.
You said
Well, you look-
karma, or you said it
Yeah,
earlier, karma.
Well, you look at the way Steve also conceded, when
Yeah.
Billy, at the end of it, when they get to his final playthrough, because they were ending it for trying to get the Guinness Book of World Records, and Steve didn't make it. At the end, he's like, yeah, I'm disappointed, but he's like, but I'm happy I did this, and I did, and he bowed out gracefully, and he didn't stop playing. He just bowed out gracefully. He still tried at home.
He was a gentleman.
But he was a total gentleman about it. And you look at the whole documentary, and it's amazing because the only time Billy Mitchell and Steve are ever at the arcade at the same time is when Billy walks in with his wife and then walks out later. That's the only time you have them actually in the same place, and I found that fascinating.
And you could they shot it so well. You could feel the tension because it's just Steve on that arcade machine, and then through the corner of the frame, the door opens with Billy holding his wife's hand and then hovering behind Steve, and Steve's even polite enough to say hi to him, and Billy just pretends like he doesn't exist.
It's weird.
It's like, man, such a perfect moment to get on film. I'm guessing sorting through those 400 hours of footage, it was worth it because they got
here's another one.
Story.
Here's another one. I think you tell me if you think it's worth it. About halfway through the film, they're talking about people coming to the place to try to make the record. People would come and they set up their own tripod and their own camera. You remember that one guy who his sort of day ended pretty early, and they get the shot of him putting his stuff in his trunk and slam it. And they're walking back into the arcade.
Yeah, that's what makes this movie so great, is because you have these little crazy moments.
Yes,
that you don't expect so many of them, but they're there. Oh god, I'm trying to think of one of the moments that.
There's a guy who they were talking about when they became the official Guinness Book of World Records, and people are trying to come and put their scores. You had the one guy playing centipede with his foot.
Yeah.
What? There was literally the record said foot. The record said foot. I'm like, who would even want it? Why?
I don't want to touch the board after that.
Well, that was my exact.
Is there one for your nose too? Is there a nose one? Can you nose it?
It was my thought. I'm like, I ain't gonna play on that game after that. I'm not going to that centipede game after that.
Maybe that was his plan. And then there was the guy who had the glove, so he wouldn't get calluses. Yeah.
I get the sense that guy uses that glove for a few things that make things pretty handy, helpful in his life. It's good for him.
Well, I love it when they interview Mr. Awesome, I love it when they interview Mr. Awesome, aka Roy Schultz, and he says at one point, I didn't threaten Billy Mitchell. Billy Mitchell threatened himself. And I'm like, it's there's just so many of those great moments where these people just say crazy shit. And you're just like, oh, okay.
It felt like the whole thing was 1983, but to see that it was 2007, which means probably 2006, I was really trying to figure out how to make it compute, because it really felt like 1983, all over this thing to me. Of course, I am a kid of that age of these games, when I was a little kid. So that the long hair helped. These very, very sort of naive sensibilities in some of these characters that they play quite a role. I was immediately transported back to 1983.
I mean, like I said before, this movie's so nostalgic because you just see all these arcades in your past. And it makes you go, oh man, I miss those when we had those.
Yeah.
So it kind of gives you this comforting feeling. And then of course your blood boils just as hot as Ricky's hot sauce against Billy Mitchell, because he couldn't have been a bigger asshole in the film, and it worked out so well because of that.
Hey, I couldn't. I'd love to hear what you guys think. As a gamer, I really realized that I really like this idea of beating the game, and then high score, what those mean, and then kill screen. Because I was never a good enough gamer to get to a kill screen. I mean, I just don't have that much patience to play for 2.5 hours in a row, probably about most games. But this idea of beating the game or high score, in other words, you can beat a game but not be the high scorer. There's ways to pick up more score before the game ends, and I love these ideas that there's all these different versions of win. What do you guys think?
Yeah, well, when the movie talks about winning and losing, there's a gray area of being happy just with what you have, because Steve had his family, he had a life, I mean, Billy had his thing too, but at the end, they're focusing on Steve and showing how, he didn't get the score, but at least he tried, and
Billy had his hot sauce too, yes, but yeah, at least we tried.
The impression I get too is, I don't think Steve would have been as driven to do everything that we see Steve do if they would have just accepted his tape.
Yeah.
But the fact that they didn't accept his recording, that, Mitchell sent thugs over to take,
the gamer mafia.
The gamer mafia to call into question his character. I think that kind of that's the underlying thing too in this documentary. It shows that he's like, you get the impression, if they would have just accepted the tape, you wouldn't have the story, because he would have just stayed at home or whatever. He was like, hey, happy that his score got, and then Billy could come in, and if he wanted to beat it, he can, and Steve probably be happy about that, and just but the fact that they call into question everything about him just because he beat the god of Kong is the compelling underlying theme in this, that I think just is interesting to see the motivation for Steve, because his wife is understanding too with it. She's like, he's disappointed, she's like, I'm supporting him, because she understands too. She's like, these guys, this small group of gamers who seem to have gotten an iron grip on what is official have kind of insulted his character just because,
just because he's not one of them.
Of the film, well, I was going to agree with you and say that specific part of the film is the part that slightly saddened me, to remind me of that's what happens. We talked about hero worship, and Mike brought it up, right? But also that the institutions that we think are there for reasons that are good and pure are helmed by people, who might
humans.
Humans who might have rosy-colored glasses on. In this case, these two gamer mafia guys go over there and beat this guy's machine and him down, based on specious assertions that mean nothing except their loyalty for some other thing, but they represent the institution that measures all of these scores and lends credence to whomever gets the high score. So that whole part was the part about kind of looking at humanity. Like, oh yeah, we're still, even in 2007, we're still not great yet. It's not Star Trek Next Generation yet.
Because like it really kind of tells you about how people are nice individually, but when you put them in a group, they kind of become this insidious thing. And that's sort of
in psychology, they say a person is smart, people are stupid. A mob of people do not react sanely when they are together. Like an individual groupthink starts to happen, but with energy and people moving. They've studied it. It's really weird like that. But a person is smart. A bunch of people, smart. They're just not smart.
That's when they all just end up hero worshiping, as you said. And I mean, it's funny. Like they were interviewing Billy's wife, and they asked her, "Have you ever seen him play in a live competition or play a video or play Donkey Kong?" She's like, "Never." And it just tells you so much about who Billy is. Because the thing that I think with Billy is, he got older since then, and he got a little rusty with the game.
Oh yeah,
and he didn't practice like Steve did.
Can we just talk about the cameraman though, and his shooting of Billy Mitchell's wife? Did they not have the tripod that day? Because
that lower angle,
the lower angle. I'm not the only one that noticed that. They did a rather low up angle at Billy Mitchell's wife for a particular reason, I think.
So in the prequel idea that I had when I saw this, I saw him behind the scenes in like a shoulder strap with a big thing around his hand, being all upset, and his wife like up shots of her. Big giant store-bought, hot sauce.
I was gonna say, there's a lot of bottles of hot sauce involved with that. I don't mean to be crass, but it was one of those camera angles where I'm like, okay, guys, you could have you could have shot this a couple different ways.
Yeah.
I don't think they asked
Billy
her
felt
to
about that
dress
shot.
provocatively. I think that's
No,
her
well,
normal.
no, I
So,
believe Billy
probably-
probably yes.
I mean, that was
Slim
another
Pickens.
thing that was funny about Billy Mitchell's character. And maybe I shouldn't be saying this was judgmental of me. His wife dresses very in very revealing clothing.
Mm-hmm.
And she kind of comes off like a trophy wife in the film. I'm sure that's not the case at all. But just like the way she's depicted, it's like, oh yeah, you got the girl with the biggest titties to marry him.
No, I mean, she seems like, legit or whatnot, but she does, unlike, you had your contrasting wives as well. Unlike Steve's wife, who understood what her husband was doing and the importance and everything, you feel bad for Billy Mitchell's wife in a way because she doesn't have any really witnessing or understanding of what this obsession is of Billy's. She's just taking his word. She's never actually seen it really in action, and you feel bad because I think if she did, she'd be supportive in but they interview her and you're like, how do you not know? And then that gives you the impression, well, how long has it been since Billy actually played in front of anybody?
Could have been the 80s.
Yeah.
I think that's what it was. I think so much time passed. He didn't play the game again and he got busy with his hot sauce stuff. So he just made tapes and they took it, and yeah.
I think this is a wonderful part to talk about. She's the Melania of her day, right? She doesn't know how the sausage is made. She doesn't care. But it's really interesting when I thought, based on what you guys were just talking about, this rise of this person. So let's say humble blue collar roots, and from the outside, a person who picked themselves up by their bootstraps and kind of did something special with their lives, and then there's all the things start happening. He got famous at gaming, and then he started turning that fame into something that turned into money somehow, and started these businesses. And his parents worked for him, and they have this nice house now, and they have this great car, and so it's like all this stuff that one thing built way back then. And is it built on a house of cards? Is it fake? Was it real at one point? And then, as you say, Steve coming in and just, it was a fun documentary. I'm not surprised this was a story that came out of 400 hours.
Yeah. And the funniest thing with this movie is I kind of miss documentaries that looked the way they did back in 2007. Like I kind of liked that home video 30 frames per second look, because now every documentary looks like a movie.
Yeah.
And that's great. Technology evolves, but at the same time, I kind of miss it when you could look at a documentary and immediately tell us a documentary.
And I totally know what you mean by that.
Yeah. Yeah. Now it's like you can film something on your iPhone. They filmed 28 years later on their iPhone. It's really changed. And I have to admit that must have been a pain in the ass to shoot that movie, holding those cameras all day, filming everything. But the movie is a prime example of if you film everything, you will be rewarded. You just have to sift through all the garbage. But man, they constructed that into an hour and 19-minute film that never goes too long. It never feels too short. It's just the right kind of length. And I loved that. And I just love the dichotomy between the characters. Like we were saying, like the whole nerd Billy Mitchell posse. I don't think it's funny because like they're the kind of stereotype of the gamer. They're the ones who like don't make a lot of money. They're sort of incels. I'm not gonna say all of them, but I doubt that.
Mr. Awesome is Awesome is complete.
Mr. Playgirl, but he's not in their group. But
that guy's a restraining order waiting to happen.
Yeah.
But
but it's really a film about being compassionate with each other and playing fair against a system that is against you. And it's about finding
a lot of themes for sure. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Sorry.
and it's about finding hope and meaning in your life. Like did the Donkey Kong score matter that much? I think if Billy showed up, as you said, Mark, it wouldn't have been as big of a deal. But because the guy was so rude, he got his karma, and he beat him after the film. And another part of karma is seeing this documentary, I'm sure hurt his image a lot. And
yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. In the old Wikipedia days, I don't know, excuse me, I don't know if anyone can do it anymore, but like anyone could like add information on someone's Wikipedia page.
Oh,
And
you
I
can
remember,
still. Yeah.
oh, really? Oh, wow. Yeah, because I remember I wanted Billy Mitchell's page, and at the end of it, it said Billy Mitchell is a douchebag who can't handle real competition.
Wow,
like, oh,
wow, that's harsh. That's
Yeah.
I guess his page is locked by him.
Yeah.
Wow, that's savage, right there.
I know. God, it's funny because this movie, I think it was a stroke of luck that they made it, because like it ended up getting picked up by Picture House, I think it was called, and it ended up getting a major theatrical release. But I never got to see it in the theaters. I only saw it at home. But everyone I show this documentary to, it's great, because you don't have to be into video games to enjoy this film. You just have to be into. You're just watching a story about two competitors, where one guy is the underdog and the other guy is the champion, and it's a movie where you want the underdog to win. And
Rising up,
driving,
right on the street, do my time, took my chances.
Of course, they had to do that needle drop. Of course, they did.
Yeah. But man, what a beautifully structured movie. And I don't find other it's hard to find a documentary as funny as this one. It's funny, it's moving, it's actually saying something about, like mob culture, not mafia, but when people mob together. Yeah.
The gamer mob.
Yep.
The game mob.
That's right.
Gamer
Brian
mob.
Koo's going to make a phone call on you. But I mean, there's countless hilarious moments.
Wow. But the story gets even worse. Did you guys look up on the wiki the latest for Billy Mitchell?
No.
Okay.
Before it gets worse, worse, I do want to say I did have one other line that really struck me, and I'd love to hear if you guys have any choices or your impressions on this one. It's another line that just is a bit of a tearjerker when his family's all driving to the airport, and his daughter says, "I never knew the Guinness World Record book was so important." And her dad says, "Well, yeah, for some people, it's important to them." She goes, "Some people ruin their lives to get there." It's like,
kids are smart. Kids know how to pick up on things, and they know how to dissect them and just get straight to the points.
Daddy.
So we need to correct it here. According to the wiki, even though they did pull his scores on Guinness World Records, they later could not prove that those other scores he had, where he had used an emulator, they couldn't prove it, so they restored his records for Donkey Kong and Pac-Man. And here's what's funny is he filed lawsuits against Twin Galaxies as well as a young YouTuber, Apollo Legend. And then the judge ruled against Twin Galaxies, attempting to dismiss the case. And then they've counterclaimed. Lots of back and forth going on. So then he filed 2 lawsuits against a YouTuber speedrunner, Carl Jobs, that said 2 of his videos were defamatory, and one of the clips that refers to Mitchell as a cheater, the other covering his cheating allegations. They published a report saying Mitchell could not have obtained his records on an original arcade hardware, and stage-to-stage transitions being consistent with those of MAME. So then it went back to in question that Mitchell's stand-up had a modified joystick that allowed for 8-way motion, which so then a Twin Galaxies.
Wait, whose joystick was that? Which guy?
Mitchell.
Oh, Billy Mitchell. Okay,
that was in 2022. They did Mitchell. They found that the stand-up he used had an 8-way joystick, and then Mitchell and Twin Galaxies settled their case last year. In January, terms weren't disclosed, and they reposted his scores in the same month. even though a guy testified that Mitchell used improper hardware due to the low quality of evidence presented. Then, unfortunately, the defamation lawsuit that he put against the YouTuber Ben Smith, they came to an agreement, but then, unfortunately, Smith committed suicide later after they settled for a large sum of money, which he had to pay to Mitchell. And a lot of people
who committed suicide?
The speedrunner who initially called Mitchell a cheater.
The YouTuber?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, apparently Mitchell sued Carl Jobs for defamation. They settled out of court for a very large sum of money that put apparently Jobs in the hole, which they feel led to his suicide.
Wow.
So they say.
Well,
allegedly
according
suicide.
Yeah. Apparently that he got hounded by Mitchell as well, so it's implied anyway. So it took even a darker turn with this. It's like
it goes to show, don't make deals with Satan.
Yeah.
Careful, Billy.
Everyone loses in the end.
Billy might come after you, so you gotta be careful now. No,
thanks for that update. Mark.
Yeah, thanks for that. I thought that they took away all of his scores, but I guess not.
No, they restored him, but it just even more though that shows you how
I'm back.
Mitchell is still holding on to that. Yeah. Even though he's a successful businessman with his hot sauce and everything else, he's got 3 kids with his wife. The whole 9 yards, he's still holding on and going after folks who have attacked his record. And that's just wild to me. That's just wild.
One thing struck me. It is wild, isn't it? I mean, the people, what people hold on to, it's like being prom king. How long can a person have had their candle shine that bright that's the thing that they're the most proud of still. But I was thinking that, oh shoot, I just lost my train of thought. You said something so inspiring that I thought of something good. It'll come back to me.
Well, I mean, this movie, when you say inspiring, it is inspiring because Steve found something that he's really good at that actually worked out in his life because he just had so many bad breaks. And, it's great to see the dichotomy between Billy and Steve. And I think that's the reason why people have been talking about this documentary for years because of how relatable it is. I mean, Steve's a very relatable guy. He's the everyday man. And also kind of like it gets you angry at Billy Mitchell. And it's also showing like this nerd culture, but it's also kind of diffusing some of the stereotypes of nerds. Right. When you look at Steve's life and Billy's life, but then, these other guys, I don't know what. Brian Koo decided to retire, move to New Hampshire, and just go to Fun Spot all day.
Yeah, that's a hell of a life. I'll take that. Crazy.
I still want to know what he did to get all that money because it was something. But yeah, I've kind of exhausted my thoughts on the film. Does anyone have anything else to say before we wrap this up?
No, I'd just say that it's a documentary people should watch, even if they're not into video games, because it's a fascinating documentary put together with a bunch of people, and it all feels just so genuine. And especially, how genuine it is with all the history that came after the documentary, as I outlaid just in the Wikipedia, everything that's come up afterwards, lawsuits and such, that shows you, no, this documentary is real. This is presenting this culture, and if you're looking at a way to do a documentary, watch this film because man, it's sharp. It doesn't slow down. It is a compelling story throughout,
and hilarious throughout too.
And hilarious, yeah.
Oh God, Daddy, wipe my bottom.
Mark, I was thinking something quite exactly like that too. That just the way that the synthesis of the intersection of all the things, these people who are not filtered at all, they're being completely honest, right, and upfront with who they are. The intersection of that with the idea of gaming, and as Mike said, all these hundreds of hours of footage gave rise to this story, and as you so aptly pointed out, that's still going and had been still being updated. And if you want to learn how to make a documentary, This is a perfect one because the synthesis of that moment in time that has kept somehow keeping itself running along and still being present because of all of this things around the subject matter that have kept it going. It's really, you're quite right. It really is a treatise on, both you and Mike had said, as you said, like a treatise on how to make a great documentary, because we're still talking about it.
Yeah. And it's like
it is still relevant.
Culture.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I was just saying, it's not even it's not like Hello Kitty popular culture. This is got some real, this is like Rolling Stones of games,
Yeah. Yeah, and it's sad that Twin Galaxies, or not Twin Galaxies, Fun Spot's gone now.
Yeah.
And yeah. Well, I mean, 2007, that was a long time ago.
Yeah, Fun Spot closed down. I think it was just before, it was about 10. It's been down for a while now. I remember because there was an article and stuff about it too.
Yeah. I mean, that's sad, but at least we still have like if you live in Illinois, there's Galloping Ghost Arcade, and that's in the suburbs, and it's just like filled with these retro machines. And it's they had like a stand for them at C2E2. But yeah, I mean, I've always liked this movie because it's just so expertly crafted. And I think if they ever tried to make a sequel, it wouldn't be as good because you wouldn't have gotten as many of those golden moments. You wouldn't have gotten the guy slamming the trunk in his car. You wouldn't have gotten. You wouldn't have gotten. You wouldn't have gotten. Oh no, I lost my train of thoughts. But you wouldn't have gotten Steve recording his score and then his kids asking him to wipe his bottom, take care of his diaper, and he had to submit that to them. And
I'll be the old guy of the room because I am old. You couldn't make this documentary today.
No.
You couldn't make this documentary today because we live into a culture now where cameras are everywhere. Yeah. And when you're filming a documentary, you can't quite guarantee you're going to get real people. I think that's, in all honesty, I think that's why when you see documentaries nowadays, they're just different beasts than what they used to be because of your social media and your influencer culture and that. And your Hawk 2 culture.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think it would be, I shouldn't say you couldn't. I would say it would be more of a challenge to get an authentic documentary like this shot today in the gaming culture because of the way things are.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that everyone has a cell phone that shoots stuff.
Well, just everybody into gaming and being on Twitch in general. And I'm not slighting anybody. I'm just saying the gaming culture has changed so much in 20 years, or not quite 20 years, that you couldn't quite make this same documentary because I think the people would be even more characters for the sake of possibly being recognized.
Yeah. Yeah. And they don't want to have that kind of embarrassment to wind up on the internet.
And probably so many other reasons too. Hey, before we do go, I'd love to hear what you guys think. Top 5 favorite games, not just arcade games, board games, any games. Like top 5. Like I've got like Asteroids in my lineup. What do you guys think? What's your top 5 games, Mike? Top 5.
Metal Gear Solid.
What's that first one?
Metal Gear Solid.
Oh yeah,
yeah. And oh shit, what's like another? Well, The Last of Us Part 1. Let's see, a third game. Maybe Mario Odyssey. That one's really good. I don't play like the grind fest games because they just eat up too much of my time.
3 to 5.
Yeah, one franchise that I love that they because I give you 2. I got to give you a few more. The one of them that I really love, but ended up shitting the bed because they gave it to EA and EA screwed it up, and Spielberg lost his control over it. Was Medal of Honor. Like Medal of Honor is Call of Duty's daddy. Yeah. And that's kind of a game. Oh, Fallout is also good. That's a grind fest that I like to play. And the Doom games, like the new ones. I mean, Doom, the Dark Ages is coming out in 2 weeks. Although the older I get, I can't keep up with it because Doom is fast.
That's what I've been told. Yeah. That's what I've been told is that I haven't played it yet. I own it, but I haven't played it yet. So
yeah, I remember that it first came out. That engine was really something. It was a game changer when that engine came out.
Yeah.
and see, it got overshadowed by one of my favorite games. And actually, I haven't gotten back to it in a couple of months, but I started streaming it for a little while. Ultima Underworld. I was a big Ultima fan. So that was a role-playing game. That was a first-person dungeon crawl that they did that came out around the time or just before Doom, and it had so much to it that they were doing that if you go back and you look at an old game going, holy crap, the inventory system, the RPG, the map, everything about it was insane. So for me,
that's one of your favorites.
So one of my favorites is Ultima Underworld. The other favorite I have, I guess, if I was going to play a stand-up, I mentioned Tron. Tron is probably the stand-up. If it's there, I'm playing it. As far as other games go, I really enjoyed Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah,
I played through that a couple of times.
Borderlands. Borderlands. Yeah.
The Borderlands 2 specifically, I replayed it, and that's one of those where it's a game I know if I start playing it again, well, whatever I'm going to get accomplished is not going to happen because I'm just going to start. I'm going to have to play through it again, even though I played it. I'm playing Borderlands 3 now, so I like the Borderlands games. So those 4 for sure are ones that I'll play a lot. And you know what? A Last of Us Part 1. I enjoyed Part 2 as well. Don't get me wrong. I really enjoyed Part 2, but Part 1 surprised me so much. I've played that 3 or 4 times.
Same.
Just because of the story is so interesting, and the way they go about that survival horror type of aspect is just something that still hasn't quite been captured since that game. It really is. So,
Martin, what's your favorite games?
Yeah.
I tell you, I almost never can pass up a Tron. I have to play Tron. I hate walking by asteroids without playing that.
Yeah.
Of course, I grew up on Defender, but I couldn't get past like 1 or 2 levels because it just, for some reason, that wasn't the one that my brain clicked on. But I also used to get down on a lot of pinball. Like there's too many of those to name all the great pinball I love.
I love
First
pinball.
One of those. Gone Fishing's another great one. There's so many great ones out there. The rock and roll ones. But one of my favorite games is in the arcade right now, made for the arcade, a new arcade game called Killer Queen. It's a team game. Have you guys ever played it?
No, I've not heard of it. No.
Got to get yourselves to an arcade. Essentially, it's one big giant wide arcade game, stand-up game with 5 people on one side, but the exact thing on the other side. So you could like lean around and see that there's a whole other guy there with a bunch of other ladies and guys next to him. And there's 5 of you on this side, and you play on one big machine that's like 2 sandwiched together. And it's a us versus them game. And it's a combination of like jousts. It's called Killer Bee, but there's these different bee jobs. You know, drones have different jobs in Beehive. So the different soldiers and different bee characters do different jobs. And so depending on what version you are, you do a different job in the game, and then someone else is trying to do the opposite thing that you have to stop, etc. Back and forth.
Oh wow, nice. That's neat.
And there's a lot of the jousting thing where like if you land, you remember how joust goes, oops, you know, if you're higher when you touch, so that's the one thing that I was like, oh, they got some jousting here, and it's totally not that. It's all this great strategy. It's timing. It's like marshaling forces, like a general. Like someone needs to be taking a big fat, 10,000 foot view of the game as well as playing. You know, people are that good. They're just they communicate with each other. They're really good at telling, hey, swooping so and so on the left. You can't believe how much fun it is. Like me describing it is not doing it justice. You guys, you got to get out there and play it. It's really fun. Killer Queen.
I think I forgot to add Silent Hill 2 to my list. That one's
my story was so excited. You thought of another game.
Left 4 Dead was Left 4 Dead 2. People are still playing that today. I love Left 4 Dead 2. My buddy introduced it. He's like, hey, have you heard Left 4 Dead? I'm like, what's Left 4 Dead? I'm like, oh, and then 2 came out. People are still playing it today. I've fired it up. There's still servers out there, and Valve is supporting it still. It's still getting support and such. It's a fun, immersive, co-op zombie game, but it captured that zombie feel so well. Another one where there's been a lot of games that tried to be like it, and they just aren't. I mean, for me, Left 4 Dead 2, I played the hell out of that game for so long.
Is that like a multiplayer only game, or do they have single player too?
You can play with bots. You can have bots. So you can choose a lobby. You can play it with 4 bots, though they're usually pretty dumb. But you can play. Otherwise, you play with 4 other people. And then there's other versions too, where some people play as the monsters and some people play as the survivors. And it's just, it is literally like playing Left 4 Dead 2 is definitely like playing Night of the Living Dead, or actually be more like 28 Days Later, like you're submersed into something like that. And yeah, it's so much fun. It's
there's one that
I got the link in the chat, by the way, guys.
I saw that.
Yeah, it'll go right to a video. Keep going.
All right, I was trying to. There was a game.
There's Wiebe, Steve Wiebe.
Where? No,
he's on my Screeby.
Yeah, there was one video game. I'm blinking out on what it is.
Check that link out, Mark, when you get a moment for Killer
Yeah,
Queen. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing how games have changed. You know, they used to be these 2D sprites on the screen. I grew up with NES, and now they're like full cinematic experiences.
Yeah.
And
one thing I'll say, if you don't mind me adding, my son went to school for video game programming specifically. He's a programmer now. He helped design for their senior class. They designed a class, but he's really into keeping up on like the indie game scene.
Yeah.
And one of the things I'm noticing of games that he's showing is that side scrollers and that old school type of retro approach to games have made a comeback. The indie folks, not only because the memes are there now to where a lot more people have the opportunity to design these through Unreal Engine 4 and that, but just there's this whole younger generation that's discovering the joy of the challenge of just how challenging these games are, and they're making their own games that are inspired by it. These Metroidvania type games, as they're called, or I think it is, where they're like Castlevania or Metroid or what, the side scroll and stuff that's still challenging. And seeing that come back and seeing a whole new discovery, and they're discovering older games now, the retro games among younger generations, they're finding, because they're like, this is a real challenge. This isn't something that you can, kind of walk your way through. You gotta know your stuff to get through some of these games.
If they wouldn't only just add some music from before their time along with it, it'd be really great, wouldn't it?
That's true.
Yeah. I forgot one of my favorite games. I should have mentioned it was Half-Life 2.
Half-Life 2.
And then there's Half-Life Black Mesa, which is a remake of the first Half-Life game, and it's amazing. I mean, Half-Life, I'm afraid to play it in VR because they have like those spider things that like jump up and latch on your face, and they're like the more advanced face huggers in the game, or whatever they call them. But yeah, holy shit! Actually,
you guys will know, what's that Steam platform game where it's like 5-on-5? You're the heavy machinery guy, you're the sniper, you're the spy, all the
Team Fortress.
That's it, Team Fortress.
Team Fortress 2 is too fast for my old ass.
Yeah, I'm getting there too.
Team Fortress, my kids would play that for a while. They haven't, I don't think they've played for a while, but when they used to play, I'm like, okay, Dad's going to join in. And I was just getting my ass handed to me because I'm just like, this game is just too fast. You see kids.
Tell me how they do. Was it only because, totally what you mean. Tell me this. Is it only because those people do hack their own mod of it? Or how do they do that? Blow a grenade and then jump like 200 yards away. I mean, who are these guys that are hacking the game?
Oh, you just see the video. You should see the swing glitch in Grand Theft Auto 4.
They're not hacks. They're just glitch exploits. I mean, Fortnite had that too. Fortnite has that too, where they're glitch exploits to where, you could throw a grenade and depending on how you were facing, it would launch you in the air and not hurt you.
It's like the person took a grenade launcher and then rode it like a broomstick and then pushed the button and then it blasted out there and they jump up 200 yards.
They just discovered a glitch that allowed you to do that. There's some fun videos out there.
Why couldn't I get the glitch?
There's some fun videos out there now that you have developers starting to. They're showing developers folks who are speed running their games through glitches, and it's fun hearing the commentary from the developers going, well, I didn't know it could do that.
There's one great one of someone playing Ocarina of Time, and he's just having Link like jump backwards, and he like immediately gets inside the Temple of Time, right after right after he leaves his Kariko village or wherever. Yeah. And he's just like, and he just like goes behind the wall, immediately grabs a sword, goes from kid to adult, does the same thing. I've seen someone speed run Breath of the Wild, and they had Link kill damn it, what's the bad guy's name?
Ganondorf?
Yeah, Ganondorf. And he did it, and Link did it in his underwear. He didn't have like any.
Wait, Gandalf was in his underwear?
No, Link was.
Link. Yeah.
Oh, I thought Gandalf. Sorry.
No,
I don't want to see that.
Yeah, I think he said Gandalf. I didn't get that.
Ganondorf. Yeah, that's
Ganondorf.
Yeah, and some variation of Ganon's always the villain in Zelda. You know, one thing I missed, I know we're going long, but one thing I missed with pinball games though was working to actually get a score. One of the disappointments I have with modern pinball games is you literally hit the plunger and you get like 3 million points. And I'm looking at that going, you know, there was a game I used to play, a pinball game called Swords of Fury. It was great. You'd put a quarter in and go, challenge me. And you put a quarter in. And I'd play it on my breaks at the mall. They had the arcade below the food court. And it was one of those where I got good at it to where I could put a quarter in and play all 20 minutes just about, because I'd get extra balls in that. But it was so much fun. But you had to work to get to 2 million points.
Yeah. I mean, think of all the hours that Steve put in playing Donkey Kong to get that score. Like that tape of his is probably like, God, I don't even know how long. I mean, and that's dedication, because the guy's going in, he's teaching his class, he comes home, he has to do their grades, then he's got to take care of his kids, and then he's got to play Donkey Kong, and
he's got to take care of his wife too. I mean, he's going to have to go down on her at some point. You know what I mean?
Wow. Okay.
Well, that escalated quickly.
I mean, come on. She's not just keeping around for his good looks. He's got to take care of the kids and the wife.
Yeah. Well, that's crazy. But the thing that's great about this movie is like in the end credits, they go from modern day video games down to Pong. And it's really like, although it is like the story, this David versus Goliath story, it's also a story about how much we love games and how they're kind of starting to fade away. Because Twin Galaxies is like booming in the documentary, but you're kind of thinking, arcade games are starting to go away, and this is early 2000s. What's going to happen to this place later? And it then of course went out of business. But it makes you it makes you nostalgic for the past. And damn, it was funny as hell, that movie, and I could quote it all day, but I won't. But yeah,
I mean, they're making a comeback, right? Who said the arcades are making a comeback?
Yeah,
as long as the machines can last, because I don't know when they die out. But
lucky for us, Midway Games is right here in Chicagoland. So.
That's right. Well, they're NetherRealm Games now, and they're owned by Warner Brothers. But yeah, they're still there.
Realm Games.
NetherRealm.
Oh, really? Oh.
Yeah, NetherRealm Studios. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, that's Ed Boon. They've been designing Mortal Kombat for years. I remember originally, like Mortal Kombat 2 was hard as hell to play because the opponent would just constantly run up and grab me and slam me on the ground, and they would just spam that move, and I couldn't.
And not even take you out to dinner or light dancing first.
Yeah,
that's awfully full. I think I agree. I think I agree with you, Mark. I can't do what you guys who are gamers in this way, who can memorize and do all these screens. I couldn't do that for that many hours in a row. But pinball, I can hang in on the action of an actual ball with my actual eyes rather than like watching ones and zeros on a screen. Yeah, pinball is where it's at.
Yeah, but yeah, this movie just reminds me of how much I love video games. Yeah, it reminds me of how much I love video games. This movie, but it also kind of reminds me I could never try to play these games anymore. They'll just all kick my ass. But it was
you
nice.
Need the glove. You just need the glove, buddy.
You need work on the calluses.
Yeah, that glove. Yeah.
Oh, the sock.
Maybe I'll use my foot. All right, but
when I saw foot in parentheses, and I'm like, wait, did that say foot? And then there's the clip of the guy with his foot on.
Yeah.
yeah.
Like, wait, it's a foot. It really is his foot. What?
He played Centipede with his foot. I'm just like, I'm not playing that game.
And Guinness gave him a world record for it. Think about that.
Yeah.
Not only did he play with his foot, he won himself into the Guinness Book of World Records with his foot.
I guess if they ever made a documentary on him, they could call it My Left Foot. But
But it was his right foot. It was the other one that did all the balling.
So it'd be my right foot.
Don't tell them. Don't tell them. They don't know. But yeah, this documentary has been one of my favorites for years. Everyone who I show it to loves it. And it's a movie not about Donkey Kong, but about decency and finding a purpose in life. You know, not to let all your past failures knock you down, but to keep getting up. You know, as they say in Rocky, it's not about how hard you hit, but how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. And Steve kept moving forward, and he got that high score, and it probably brought him some great pleasure that, you know, where there was finally he did something that he didn't fail at. But anyways, I want to thank you guys for coming on. Mark Krawczyk, Mark the Movie Man, Special Mark Productions. You can find him on YouTube there. The description and like links to his stuff is below. And Martin Green, Chicago filmmaker, and I guess you want to say adjacent film critic. Go on, and also guy who helps me shoot my documentaries. So yeah, thanks so much, guys, for coming on, and maybe we'll see you at the arcade.